Welcome to, I think, the first breaking episode of the Talk Sox podcast outside of the live streams we did during the wild card round. I'm Alex, and as always, I'm joined by Maddie. What's going on?
Hello. I was thinking about this earlier and I got into a contentious debate about the topic, and it kind of relates to today's episode.
Okay.
Um, is Meet Me in St. Louis a Christmas movie?
Oh, that's a good one.
Our guest is Richard McGill from Playing Catch, a Substack, and he is the St. Louis expert here, so we're going to let him field this one.
You grew up in the same place I did, so you should know just as well as me. don't try to pass off what you don't know on me. Make me look bad. I think there is certainly some Christmas aspect to it. I have seen the play once or twice, and I can't remember. I think once was going to watch Friends in a local rendition of it, and I don't remember. Yeah. But I do think there's some Christmas to it. I don't know if it's completely Christmas, but yeah, that debate you had may need to continue. I assume it's with yourself. So
that's a good question. I'm gonna have to think about that.
Yeah,
it's been a while since I've watched it, so we'll boot it back up once Thanksgiving passes. That's the rule in this house: is no Christmas until after Thanksgiving. So. And I've carried it into my classroom. No. I've carried it into my classroom. They've wanted to listen to Christmas music for the past 2 weeks, and I've told them no.
Good. I've set that boundary.
So like I said a second ago, we've got a special guest on this episode. We're joined by Mr. Richard McGill, who is from Playing Catch, a St. Louis Cardinals father and son Substack, where he and his son both kind of wax poetic about the goings-on of the St. Louis Cardinals, as drear as they may be from these past couple of seasons, Richard.
Yeah, we started it as a podcast when Truman, who when he turned 16, he's 19 now at Ole Miss, and it was a way for us to continue talking about the Cardinals like we did when we'd sit and watch and discuss, hey, what should they do next? Should we warm up so-and-so? But as soon as he turned 16, he was gone. And so those conversations on the couch stopped a lot. And so it was kind of my way to keep him engaged that way. And as soon as we started it is really when the Cardinals started being bad. So some of it we blamed on ourselves. Because we started it after the 22 season where they had a good run. But so it wasn't real fun, and I think that was part of it. And then just with him getting older and more activities and me switching careers, we just didn't have time for it and haven't made time for it. And so now it's something we're trying to bring back up as more of a Substack where we can write on our own time and, trying to encourage him to write more as he's going to write a lot more in college. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
I hopped on an episode or two back when you guys
were
and it was a lot of fun.
Maybe our only guest. Yeah, maybe our only guest. Yeah.
So the reason we're here is about 11 o'clock Central Standard Time today. It broke that the St. Louis Cardinals and Boston Red Sox had completed a trade sending Sonny Gray to Boston in return for right-handed pitcher Richard Fitz, whose nickname we are going to miss sorely here in Red Sox circles.
Oh, it's been used so many times today by Cardinals fans.
Yeah. It's top tier. Yeah. And then we've got a left-handed pitcher who was at High A Salem, I believe. Brandon Clark is headed back into the St. Louis organization. So, Richard, if you would kind of give us kind of a rundown of the Cardinals side of things. How do you feel about this as a Cardinals fan?
I was somebody that wanted Gray traded last winter. Kind of saw the writing on the wall with the season that they were going to have and wanted to maximize that return. Sonny signed a no trade clause when he came to the Cardinals, like several of the veteran guys that John Mozeliak signed. And so last winter, he was unwilling to waive that. He wanted to stay close to home. Nashville's kind of his home, and St. Louis is a I don't know, a really quick flight at least,
Mm-hmm.
obviously. So there wasn't movement there. I thought maybe at the trade deadline, and I think they explored some things at the trade deadline, but nothing that materialized either on the return or him willing to waive that clause. And so there were things at the end of the season. Heim Bloom, who Red Sox fans know
Yes,
very well,
very familiar. Very familiar.
approached Sonny, and Sonny said, yeah, he'd be open to ideas. Probably depended on being a contender for sure, which obviously I think Boston is. I think they're looking really good, and I think with the right moves, you guys will be right there in the East, and that's saying a lot when you've got the American League champion and the Yankees ahead of you right now.
Absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, knowing that he was going to be gone and that he's got a $35 million contract, just trading him wasn't going to get a prospect. You had to create some kind of surplus value there, and they did so by the $20 million in cash that's coming with him to Boston. So, looking at it, Fitz is a guy that for St. Louis is going to be in the starting rotation. I mean, he's a guy that's and in a rebuild. Even if they're not calling that, it's a flat out rebuild. In a rebuild, controllable, young, cheap, major league minimum arms are a premium. Whether he's, a back of the rotation guy in the future or just kind of holding fort until they get a good 5, I'd say by 2028. I mean, that's valuable. There's value there. And for a guy that didn't have a role, at least in the rotation in Boston, he's got to be happy.
Yeah.
Brandon Clark is a guy that, I love the trade season, whether it's the trade deadline or the hot stove. And so I've looked over the Red Sox rankings and their top prospects a long time. And Clark was really a guy that intrigued me. And since Bloom's fingerprints have been in the organization. So during this past draft and during the trade deadline, you're starting to see a kind of a theme with high velocity, really, really good fastball pitchers. And Clark absolutely just fits that. So, you know about the blisters, about the walks. There's a high ceiling there. I think the floor is a good left-handed reliever, but they certainly will look at him, try to develop him as a starter, obviously. Yeah. So I'm happy. I'm very happy. I'd say it's a B plus. I was kind of surprised at the timing. I thought Gray might be a guy that they would wait until some of the bigger guys signed and got somebody that kind of got desperate. But with what they wanted, the more I've thought about it since I messaged you right after it happened, Alex, the more I see why it makes sense to do it now, because they have so much work to do in trading guys. And this clears things up as they head to the winter meetings. Brendan Donovan's the big name that should bring the most, but they got to find anybody that will take Nolan Arenado at this point. Jojo Romero. Yeah, Jojo Romero's a left-handed reliever that they'll trade. He's only got 1 year left.
I wanted Jojo at the trade deadline instead.
I remember you saying that. Yeah. And he's great. I mean, high energy, just fearless. Plays, does well against lefties or righties. Kind of close some after they traded Helsley. So he's a good get. One of the better left-handers that's probably available even this winter among free agents or trades. And then you've got guys like Lars Nootbaar, Nolan Gorman, and probably Alec Burleson, kind of maybe on the outside of that. But I'd say one of those three probably gets moved. Yeah. And then you got to look at the catching depth. They've got 4 or 5 catchers on their 40-man roster now. And 2 of those are still kind of minor leaguers. But you don't need 3 at the major league level, and you don't need and one of those made it up last year. Jimmy Crooks, he was in Memphis at AAA all year, made it up. So they've got some things they can do. They sorely lack pitching. They sorely lack right-handed pitching. So Clark didn't really solve that problem, but at this point you go for high upside, and again a good fastball. I know he's got a kind of a wipeout slider if he can control. So very happy with the trade though. And look, I think Sonny Gray's a great addition. I know, probably in Red Sox land there's debate whether he's a number 2 or number 3. We can talk about that a little bit, but you're getting a bulldog for sure. And you just hope at some point, age catches up to everybody, but it really hasn't shown in him yet. There are little inconsistencies last year, but overall, a 4+ ERA, but his FIP and xFIP were very good. So I still think there's a lot left in the tank. Still gave 180 innings. So I think he probably will be the number 3 guy in Boston because I still think you guys get somebody better.
That's the hope.
Yeah.
Maddie, what's your take on it?
Initially, I was a little worried until news broke that the Cardinals were sending $20 million with him to the Red Sox. So that helps. I mean, $41 million with the buyout is just that would have been an overpay for Clark and Fitz. But I have a piece coming out soonish on the Gray trade, and just Giolito's qualifying offer was just a little over $22 million, and Walker Buehler's contract, I know they didn't pay it in full because he was released August-ish this year. So his was just a little over $21 million. So I mean, looking at allocation, he's an upgrade over both those guys. I think his ceiling is a lot higher. He has a lot more swing and miss stuff compared to those two, and it just can't be the only big move that they make for a starter.
100%.
They need like I don't know if it's through trade. They're looking at Sox prospects. They traded away a lot of guys for Garrett Crochet, and their farm system's looking a little thin. The upper parts in their system. So I don't know. Some news came out earlier today that said they were looking to allocate resources towards a big bat. So I don't know if that means they'll continue exploring the trade market.
I think we have to assume that's probably Pete Alonso until we're told it's not Pete Alonso, or Alonso and Bregman, who coincidentally just a few hours ago updated his Instagram profile picture to a picture of him in home whites standing in the dugout. So trying to not read too much into that, but that is somewhat encouraging, I think. Richard, I was sitting at the game with J-May who noticed it, and so I had to pass that along.
Well, and I'll warn you as an Ole Miss football fan, don't read into too much because every little thing that Lane Kiffin or his kids put on social media, so you have LSU, Florida, and Ole Miss fans fighting a lot over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So just be careful.
Yeah. I'd like to hope that means that Bregman's close to signing, but as we all know, he's a Boris guy. I don't see the Red Sox dealing for Gray, trading for Joe Ryan, Pablo Lopez, insert number 2 starter here, and signing Alonso and re-signing Bregman. I just don't think for as wide open as the AL was probably going to be next year, I just don't see John Henry doing that with a lockout likely looming in 27. We've talked a lot in our Slack channel about how that seems to be the trend of the offseason so far, is you have teams that are keeping an eye on 27 as their kind of I think we'll have baseball. I don't think we'll lose games, but there is talk on whether there will be a season because the owners seem kind of dead set on a salary cap and the union is against it. I don't think we'll lose games. Hopefully, just for our sake, so we don't go crazy during the summer. But it's going to be interesting to see kind of how this free agent class and even these trades shake out. We just had the most qualifying offers accepted in an off season, which I think is telling. I don't think the Yankees expected Trent Grisham. I think they were hoping Trent Grisham wouldn't accept the $22.5 million QO, but he's no dummy.
That didn't surprise me at all. Yeah.
No. You have to hope that it's short-sighted on the Yankees to do that, and it just kind of impacts them and prohibits them from landing a Kyle Tucker or something like that. But I like this trade. I said that the last Cardinals game that I went to was on Labor Day when Sonny Gray got shelled for 7 runs against the Oakland A's or the Vegas A's or whatever they are currently, the Sacramento A's. And that hopefully is an anomaly. I know he came in at an over 4 ERA this season, but I think kind of the buzzword of social media when it comes to Sonny Gray today was that he is probably one of the most overlooked pitchers of the last decade in terms of reliability and stability. I know in 2018, his year with the Yankees did not go well. He has kind of come out and said that they were trying to make him throw like Tanaka through, and that's not the kind of pitcher he is. So hopefully it's not a big market issue because he has pitched well in small markets. I wanted him on the Red Sox in 2018. I was really, really hard and heavy on the Sonny Gray train. Once I saw him kind of implode in New York, I was glad he wasn't with the Red Sox. But if that is the case and they were trying to change his delivery and his arsenal on the fly, then I understand why he had the season that he had. Like you, Richard and Maddie, I don't think the Red Sox are done, but I'm curious, with the focus being on a big bat, are they anticipating the trade market to come into play here? Are they looking at a Mai out of Japan, which is kind of where I think they should be looking? Dylan Cease, Michael King, I like that idea, but I don't think I love it. I would love to see a trade with Milwaukee for Peralta. I think that is a very interesting matchup. And then, like we talked about on the last episode, Maddie, Duran to the Mets for Senga is really something I'm interested in.
With the Mets, I think Brandon Sproat for Duran would be a good deal. His pitch mix, really aligns with Andrew Bailey's pitching philosophy. Doesn't throw a fastball that often, relies on breaking pitches. So I think there could be some alignment there. Peralta would be interesting. But if we're talking about the trade market, I still think Hunter Green would be a really good fit for Duran. Just they need outfield help, and the ball flies a lot farther in Great American Park. It's a smaller market, which I think Duran would thrive in compared to the Boston media landscape.
Yeah.
I am
Richard,
interested.
That's your area of expertise.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. I'm interested to see what they'll do with Peralta, what Milwaukee will do with Peralta. They traded Corbin Burns when he just had 1 year left. Now, it was a lot more. I think Peralta's scheduled to make, I'm going to say this wrong, but probably 8.5, 9 million, something like that in that final season. And so it's not that cost prohibitive, but similar to the Yankees, I don't think they were they were probably hoping Brandon Woodruff would reject the qualifying offer, and he accepted. And so that's a pretty expensive part for a team that usually has a payroll between 90 and 105 million. And so that Peralta could be in play there. I'd be shocked if Hunter Green is, but man, they've got some pitching. If Lodolo,
I like Nick Lodolo a lot.
Yeah. A lot of swing and miss there in their entire staff. You got some young guys.
I would pay money to hear Jerry Remy say Nick Lodolo. like like good money. And rested, like we all love Rim Dog, but he would have so much fun if he were still calling games with. And same thing with Joe Castiglione. I would hope that I would be listening to the radio when he makes his few appearances just to hear him talk about Nick Lodolo if he shows up with the Red Sox.
I do like that Mets idea as well because I mean they obviously just traded Brandon Nimmo, and so they've got a hole in the outfield. Their outfield's kind of old anyway.
They were sniffing around
Starling
Durant last offseason too, so it makes sense.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean Brandon Sproat, Jonah Tong, and I mean there's one other one that name's escaping me, but they've got three young studs. Yeah, McLean, Nolan McLean. Those three are all studs in the waiting, and I mean that's three at minimum mid rotation guys, and so I think they're going to have to move at least one of them this winter to fill some other needs for sure. And again, Senga, I didn't follow what happened with him last year, but man, when he came up and that sinker or whatever he had, that just splitter, I guess, splinker or whatever they call it, that was nasty. I mean, he took some hits when he first started and then just settled in. So don't know anything about his contract situation just because he absolutely does not fit with my team. But yeah, he would be good too for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, you guys are set up really well. Whatever direction.
It's going to be a very interesting winter meeting, I think. Going into last year, there was the smoke around Garrett Crochet that at the trade deadline previous, the White Sox were asking for both Roman Anthony and Marcelo Meyer. Obviously, that wasn't going to happen. And then the price dropped. I don't want to say significantly because, Kyle Teal and Braden Montgomery, and then who else? Chase Mydroth. That's a package. That's a really good package. Kyle Teal looks like their catcher of the future. Mydroth is kind of the utility infielder that I think all of us hoped Christian Campbell would turn into this season. And Montgomery is working his way back from that ankle injury still. He didn't have a great showing in the minor leagues this year with the White Sox, but I think that he'll kind of get his feet under him.
And I like Montgomery. I got to see him in college, and I mean that he's a specimen. He's just does everything well, runs, throws, hits.
Yeah.
I really like him, and Sherman and I have kind of followed him. I mean, we went to an Ole Miss A&M game and sat in right field, almost even with where he played, really just to go watch them play, play him.
So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of package, if there will be starters that will move at the winter meetings. That's going to be the hot trade item again this year, as it has been in years past. I'm curious to see if Breslow will be able to swing a trade for Joe Ryan, Pablo Lopez, something like that, or that pivot to the big bat if Pete Alonso does sign at the winter meetings. Alex Bregman, I have to assume, doesn't want spring training to start before he signs a contract this year. Kyle Schwarber, I think, probably signs somewhere in December, early January. You're going to have a lot of these guys hopefully go over the next couple of weeks. So it'll be interesting, and I hope that Breslow can swing another trade for a number 2. I think Sonny Gray in a vacuum, yes, can slot into the number 2 role for the Red Sox, but I don't want to see that. I want to see this be a Giolito replacement and the Red Sox still improve their starting rotation. So we'll kind of see what happens, but this is not the trade any of us expected when we woke up this morning.
No. Not at all.
Usually the week of Thanksgiving is, nothing but dead air. So to have this happen 2 days out was interesting.
Well, and I think Cardinals fans are still suffering PTSD from last offseason. We had one signing, which happened in March for $2 million. So, to have something happen huge before Thanksgiving is very welcomed. The other things about Sonny Gray that I think Red Sox fans should be happy about is I saw today that he had the best strikeout to walk ratio in the National League. Throws a lot of strikes, doesn't walk a lot of guys. Kind of has that bulldog mentality. He's not big. I mean, he's 5'10", so for a starting pitcher, I think that size has kind of always followed him around, and he's kind of used it to kind of motivate himself. But at the same time, he's a guy that he'll be in a start, and when he hits the wall, he hits the wall. But he doesn't. He lets the manager know, and he doesn't push past and say, "Oh, let me in. I can work through it," and potentially cost the team runs. I mean, he's a guy that's going to give it all he's got till he can't give it anymore. I do think the St. Louis heat and humidity. I know you've experienced that, Alex. I think
that's no joke. No joke.
There were games where he would change his jersey after one inning because it was soaked.
Was it Ellie De La Cruz who threw up at shortstop in June this year? Yeah,
it was.
It was so hot in St. Louis. Yeah. It's nuts.
And so you can only imagine. You can only imagine being on the mound. And I went back and looked at some of his game logs, and it's 5 bad starts throughout the year, which is too many. But Sherman and I went to Vegas end of June to go to a UFC thing for his senior trip. And we went somewhere on a Friday night, and they were playing Cleveland, and they had it on, and complete game one hitter, something, 1 or 2 hits. And he kind of, maybe not the next start, but the start after that was rain delay in a 3rd inning. So he only went 3 innings and then kind of got beat up after that. And I don't know if it was the long innings of that and then the shortened rain start, but then 2 or 3 starts there in July just seemed kind of wonky. And that really threw his numbers off, I think. But prior to that late June start against Cleveland, he might have had 2 bad starts all year and was looking incredibly good. So again, maybe it is age catching up to him. Maybe there was something else going on, but he's durable. Made 32 starts. I think 28 the year before, and so I hope he's a number 2 for you, but I also hope that you guys get somebody else to fight it out for that number 2 spot. I mean, Crochet's been a tremendous get for you guys.
He's a hoss. Absolute hoss.
Anybody that's paired with him, and that's another thing is that this kind of takes some pressure off of Sonny. There were a lot of games too. I do think this affected him, that the Cardinals struggled to score runs so much that the pitching staff just seemed to implode as the year went on. They felt like they had to be perfect to win games, and I think that kind of played a part in it too. I mean, they would never probably admit that, but they kind of played well. They're surprisingly well, I think, and you kind of knew the bottom was going to fall out at some point, and when it did everywhere. And so you almost feel like everybody was kind of working against themselves. It was just there's a few things that may have contributed to that, but hopefully he's more consistent this year and just goes out and 6 innings, 7 innings every start, 2 runs. I think is kind of what to expect. He's not a guy. He's not a guy that's going to go 9 innings, maybe once.
No. Yeah. Except that series when the Red Sox come to Busch Stadium in April, and I'm sure that you're hoping that he implodes in front of his old fan base. But
you know what? There may only be 15,000 people there at this point, but my
wife and I will be 2 of them. So
he will get a standing ovation. I mean, I think the fans really appreciated him. He's a very good guy. I fell in love with him on a couple of years ago, or a couple of years before he signed. Probably he was on Nate Bargatze's podcast, and just listening to him was great. I mean, he's a great dude. Yeah. So I think he'll be great in the clubhouse. I think he's got one of the most devastating sweepers in baseball, and he, word is that he loved teaching some of the younger pitchers how to get more break on their stuff. So
Peyton Tolley will love that.
Yeah. He totally throws a little harder than
just a little
but
bit.
yeah. He's fun to watch.
Maddie, you have any final thoughts before we wrap this up tonight?
No, I think just a change of scenery would be good for him. People always talk about players not handling larger markets. I think there are a lot of other factors that go into that. Just I was listening to Foul Territory earlier this evening, and just Brzezinski mentioned something about when he was in New York that he might have lived in Westchester, which is just a little north of the city, very suburban area, or White Plains. So maybe he didn't like that commute. I mean, it's just driving across the George Washington Bridge at any point in the day is a nightmare. And so maybe he'll like Boston more.
What's that hotel that Casas lives at during the season? That's
Hotel
like
Commonwealth.
Yeah, maybe Sonny can move into Hotel Commonwealth with Casas, and I'm sure that'll be a great roommate situation for everybody.
Oh gosh, yeah, it's kind of like the Odd Couple there, probably.
Absolutely.
Well, I will say this because I used to think the same thing about the big market thing with him when he was with the Yankees. If he wasn't comfortable in a big market, he would not have accepted this trade. So I think that's something that probably people can just at least get that part of it out of their minds, that he was very selective, and like I said, he didn't want to go anywhere last year or at the deadline, and to agree to come to Boston, I think fans should be happy about that for sure.
Yeah. My last little bit on it, Jay Hay from the Baseball is Dead podcast is kind of the stat guy that I follow the most. His kind of closing segment on there are Jay Hay's Nuggets. He posted today that there were 5 pitchers in the MLB last season who threw at least 400 sweepers with a whiff rate of 40% or higher, and 2 of them are Garrett Crochet and Sonny Gray. And then he also posted Sonny Gray's first pitch strike rate by season. In 2020, it was a 54.9, 21 a 59.1, 22 a 60.5, 23 a 61, 24 a 63.6, 25 a 64.5. So, he's coming out, he's throwing strikes, he's getting guys to swing and miss, and man, we need that behind Crochet. As we kind of saw as we entered the dog days of summer into the postseason stretch. Crochet, like I said, he's a hoss, he's the pig, but you got to have somebody behind him that can take the ball. And Sonny Gray hopefully is not the only addition, but is the addition that we know so far this early in the off season. So I'm very curious to see where we go this next season. Richard, thank you for joining us tonight.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
It's almost 10 o'clock here. Maddie, sorry for keeping you up until 11 your time zone.
No worries.
But this is our first kind of breaking podcast that we've had since we started almost a year ago. And so hopefully, we'll have some more, and we will be back with our regularly scheduled programming next Tuesday.
Hey, there's a lot of Cardinals that are going to be traded. So if another one comes up, you want a Brendan Donovan, call me.
I'm sure those phone lines will be open, and there'll be some meetings between Heim and Craig next weekend at the winter meeting. So once again, thank you, Richard, for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Real quick, I want to say, Alex, I told you this a couple of weeks ago when you beat me in trivia again. Maddie, if you're ever playing in a tournament of trivia against Alex, just if you see his team walk in, just leave. They win every time.
Noted.
But I still read you guys, and Maddie, I've been reading you too as well. So, you guys keep up the good work, and you've got enemies, or enemy teams, I guess, fans from enemy teams. Watching, not enemies,
hey,
but
everybody needs out.
No, I appreciate good writing and good baseball talk. So keep up the good work, both of you.
Thank you so much, Richard. That's very kind of you to say. Keep checking Talk Sox, as we've got a ton of pieces covering the Sonny Gray trade coming out over the next few days, as well as some other things as we approach the Thanksgiving holiday. We'll see you guys next week. Take care.
Take care.
Thanks, guys.